Okay, thank you everybody. I'd like to call this meeting of the Board of Trustees to order on today, February 25th. We have the roll.
Yes, good evening. Trustee Davis Ford.
Here.
Trustee Gould.
Here.
Trustee Levinson.
Here.
Trustee Rosner.
Here.
President Torpey.
Here.
Thank you. Adequate notice of this meeting had been provided to the press in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act. In addition, notice of the meeting has been posted in Village Hall, on our website, and has been filed in the office of the village clerk. Official action may be taken at tonight's meeting.
Thank you. And as our new schedule, again, what we're going to do is do this resolution, go into executive session for about 25 minutes. We'll come back out here at about 8 o'clock to actually begin the meeting. So can I please have a motion?
Move. Second.
Okay, moved by Trustee Levinson, seconded by Trustee Rosner.
Can I ask them into executive session real quick?
Yes.
I wanted to get an update on Next G and Irving Avenue. I don't know if that's executive or regular.
Okay, and they're giving a full report on all litigation later on in the meeting.
In the regular meeting?
Yep.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, so we're moving forward. The three items on executive session is Third and Valley redevelopment agreement, South Orange Commons redevelopment agreement, and Mary Lawn of the Oranges Academy.
And if we could just add, it may not be necessary, but personnel deputy clerk position. Just
Okay.
if there was any questions.
Okay, so there was a motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. So we're going to go into executive session. We'll be back out at 8 o'clock. Okay, thank you, everybody. I'd like to reconvene the board into our public meeting. Could we have the roll, please?
Thank you. Trustee Bauer,
Yes, here.
Trustee Davis Ford.
Here.
Is Trustee Goldberg with us or not yet?
He will be joining us by phone a little bit later.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Trustee Gould?
Here.
Trustee Levinson?
Here.
Trustee Rosner?
Yep.
And President Torpy?
Here.
Thank you.
Everybody please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please stay standing. Thank you. Okay, very quickly, a couple of announcements, and just a reminder again for everybody that's here, this is our regular meeting. We convene at 7:30, go into executive session, then come back out here to actually begin the meeting at 8 o'clock. The South Orange Community Garden, the registration began. It's on 3rd Street. There are 48 total beds available. I'm not sure how many are left, but if people are interested in the community garden for the season, it's $70 and you can register at the Baird Center. And you can find out a little bit more information at southorange.org/communitygarden. Another reminder that you can pay tax and sewer payments online on the website. It's pretty easy to do, just a couple steps. And if you would like to do that, a lot easier than coming into Village Hall, you can go on there and it's southorange.org/taxpayment.asp. Electronic recycling dates. Recycling dates can be brought to our DPW on Walton Ave on March 9th. If you have questions about what you can bring down or not bring down, I believe it's in the issue of the gaslight. And you can also call DPW 973-378-7741, extension 221. And just one more announcement on just kind of a personal note. Last week I was in New York City participating in a panel about social media and disaster response, and just talking about everything that happened during Hurricane Sandy just reminded me of all the incredible work that our public works and fire and police and everybody did. And we talked a lot about how communities step up during these things and how social media can support people doing that. So I just wanted to kind of re-thank all of our employees and volunteers and residents for what everybody did, and just remind folks that even though we definitely experienced our challenges here, there are a lot of towns that had it way worse. And if anyone is interested in volunteering or donating to help out some of the towns, for example, down at the shore, you can go to restoretheshore.com, and they have some different resources about volunteer opportunities and donation opportunities.
And would you also give the date of the meeting as a result of your surveys and?
I'm not sure what that date is. I don't think we've rescheduled it yet.
Hasn't been yet.
Okay.
So we have two presentations this evening. The first is Adam Lerner from Seton Hall University.
Thank you. Just here for my monthly update. How are you guys? All right, on February 28th, Seton Hall will be joining nearly 70 educational institutions worldwide to participate in the first ever Student Engagement and Philanthropy Day. Institutions from the United States, England, Canada, Australia, and other countries will participate in the event through various activities, including a thankathon, a day-long social media campaigns, and student video interviews with, I guess the theme of them is what giving means to them. And a lot of this is based on people giving to the university. We're focusing on a lot of the students that come to Seton Hall do receive financial aid, and so these students are having an opportunity to thank the people that are giving them that support to continue in their education. One thing we're very excited about is Seton Hall University's WSOU, which is 89.5 FM, has made it to the final round of voting for the 2013 MTVU Woody Awards. Competing against 9 other stations, WSOU has had a chance to take home this year's Woody Award for College Radio Station. Every vote counts, and we're asking for everyone's help. You can vote by going to the MTVU website, or if you go to our website under News and Events, there's a link there. We encourage everyone to vote. This is a great honor, and we'd love to be a winner this year. Acclaimed poet C.K. Williams will read from his works as part of a Poetry in the Round reading series at 7 p.m. in Jubilee Hall on Wednesday, March 13th. C.K. Williams is the author of 11 books of poetry, including The Singing, that won the National Book Award for 2003, and his previous book, Repair, which was awarded the 2000 Pulitzer Prize and the Los Angeles Times Book Award. So it's kind of an exciting time to have him on campus and speak. We're gearing up and kind of moving towards our spring semester. Things are definitely in full motion. Graduation's in May, and so spring kind of starts a lot of the activity. Students really kind of come out of the woodworks when the weather starts warming up, and so we're excited to see the campus really become alive and kind of head into the graduation season. So thank you.
Wait, through you, Mr. President, I just want to ask you, how has your recruitment been affected through the new reduction in tuition that matches, you're matching the tuition level of the state school records for those who have a specific SAT score and grades. Has that made a difference in your volume?
Absolutely. Last year we saw this surge. It's a lot of the students who wouldn't normally applied, and what we got in return was a higher quality student. We got many more applications, and we were able to be a little more choosy on who we accept into Seton Hall, which kind of raised our profile quite a bit. This year is no exception. We're getting top applicants from all around the country. We're excited. Last year we had a class of 1,400. This year I don't think the class will be as large, but I think that's just going to then, even bring in a higher class of students and with academic profile wise. So we're excited to see this, and it has been very beneficial for Seton Hall. So
has that increased your geographical reach too?
We had a pretty good stretch even before this, but this has definitely increased just the numbers of students coming from all the states. So, but Seton Hall's always been good, especially with our School of Diplomacy, really bringing from people all around the country, but also even throughout the world. So it's been good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next I'd like to ask up Linda Honorevoli and Tony Leitner from SOPAC, who are going to share some very exciting news tonight.
Thank you very much, President Torpy. Last August, we made some very significant changes in SOPAC. We're going to do that. Linda's going to have the honor of doing the actual slideshow. One of the decisions that the board made on retreat was that the job of being the executive director at SOPAC is very challenging for a number of reasons. Basically because we ask that person, or we have asked that person in the past, to be our face to the community, a visionary leader, an executive, a fundraiser, and our head of programming. It's very difficult to do. And what we decided to do was to make it easier for the executive director to be all the things we want that executive director to be a visionary leader, an executor of that vision, and a fundraiser, obviously a developer, to help the board and the community and to build bridges to the community. We've been very fortunate so far in executing that plan. And I'm happy to introduce to you tonight our new executive director, Mark Packer. But I just want to say one more thing before I ask Mark to come and tell you a little bit about himself. The second piece of the plan was to bring someone in to help with the programming, basically to do the booking, all of the dealing with agents and so forth that get us the artists that we want at the best possible price. And one of the ways one of the decisions we made was to retain Steve Lurie, who is doing this programming for the Tarrytown Music Center and the Rubin Museum of Art. What Steve brings to us is 7 years of programming experience, booking 70 shows at Tarrytown, and they don't get a subsidy from Tarrytown. They pay everything with earned revenue. I'd love us to get there, but we won't get there alone because of the things that we want to do with and for the community. So we're always going to need a contributed revenue component to what we do. But Steve is going to be a big help to our new executive director. I'm going to let Mark talk a little bit about himself, but just let me say that our decision at the board level and of the executive committee, of the search committee, which included Nancy and Trustee Gould and Mr. Torpy, as well as our staff, were unanimous in selecting and recommending to the board that Mark Packer be retained. Mark has spent many, many years down in running Apple Farm Arts and Performing Arts Center in South Jersey. He is a Jersey guy. He is very well known in the arts community in the state of New Jersey, extraordinarily so. It is much bigger news that he is leaving Apple Farm than that he's coming here. But it's going to be big news in this community. So I'm pleased to introduce you to Mark Packer and also to his wife Laura, who I'm delighted is also with us. Oh, by the way, one more thing. We're in the process of developing and growing our board. I'd like to recognize our newest board member, Rob Sando, who's sitting back there with his wife. We expect to have at least 6 new board members by the time of our annual meeting in May. Mark?
Mayor Torpy, distinguished trustees, I am elated to be the incoming executive director of the South Orange Performing Arts Center. I think this is just an extraordinary community, dynamic, full of promise, just as I think the South Orange Performing Arts Center is a very dynamic institution with great promise. And it is my goal in the coming years to make it fulfill its promise as a great cultural icon for South Orange, for Maplewood, and for the region. I hope to help it achieve financial stability and sustainability. One of my goals and my great desires is to see the center grow its footprint so that it is more than just a performing arts center, so that arts education is an integral part of what SOPAC does, and that SOPAC is not just a place-based organization, but one in the community and for the community. Those are a few of my aspirations. I feel that I'm coming into this organization with an extraordinary team, both on the governance level and amongst the staff. Very, very dedicated, very committed people, and I'm just filled with this sense of excitement and possibility for the organization. I look forward eagerly to getting to know each of you and key community members to elicit your input, to understand what your interests and desires are and your aspirations for SOPAC, so that they're integrated into our longer-term plan to ensure that SOPAC is representing and meeting and exceeding the interests of the community. Thank you very much. I welcome any questions if you have any. Oh, and Mayor Torpy, thank you so much for the video blog shout out. I did appreciate that.
And congratulations on the appointment, and thank you for being here. I think we're all very excited.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for having us here tonight. I am here to do the full presentation about all the operations at SOPAC. I wanted to begin by thanking the Board of Governors at SOPAC for giving me the reins and the keys to the candy store for the last 6 months. It has been a challenge and a great opportunity, and I've been very happy to step in, and I'm thrilled that Mark is here and that I will return to the Development Department to raise money and awareness about SOPAC. I wanted to start by saying to you that during Hurricane Sandy, can you fix that? Thank you. SOPAC was extremely fortunate to not sustain any damage to our building, thankfully. When you have giant walls of glass, you can only imagine the thoughts running through our heads when we were home. And we actually never lost power and never lost internet access. Lord knows it was a miracle. We were so pleased to be able to step up and open our doors to the community. And those of us who didn't live quite so far away were able to get in. There were about 3 staff members. And we made a decision to open up to the community and become a resource, a charging station, a place where people could just hang out and warm up, because as you know, lots of us didn't have heat for a long time. So we were very, very grateful. We only had to reschedule 2 performances. We jumped right back in on November 4th, as you know, which was less than a week after the storm, to have our Jazz in the Loft series. And then a few days later, we hosted a sold-out performance by Stephanie Mills on November 9th. We were extremely grateful to give back, as I said, and we have never been more proud to be a part of this caring and resourceful and resilient community. So we are very glad to be there for everyone. Next. Thank you. In the time that we started our fiscal year, which for us is July 1st through the end of January, we have seen 9,333 people walk through our doors. This excludes anything that took place in the loft that would have been like a rental, a party, or bar mitzvah. That's just SOPAC presented performances. Can you click, please? Which included the following. This will obviously be on the website for those who don't have a copy, for the Village website. The attendance has been very strong for most of our shows. We have sold out 2 of our Nutcracker performances. As I mentioned, Stephanie Mills was sold out, Chanticleer, and many others. As you can see, our venue seats 439 with every single seat in. We generally are at 415 without the extra 2 rows. So you can do your own math here by looking at how the shows did. Can you click the next one for me? Thank you. The 9,333 number also includes attendance at theater rental performances and also partnership performances. And by partnership, we mean the Seton Hall University series. They do their theatrical performances, their jazz series, their classical series, and also the Youth Orchestras of Essex County is now having their performances at SOPAC as well. And of course, Giants of Jazz, which we're very excited about. And I can tell you a little secret. I've met with Lee May and John Lee already, and we're almost ready to announce a date and an honoree for Giants of Jazz. And we'll be doing that in the next week or so, actually. We're way ahead of schedule, which we love to be now. Thanks. The 9,000 number also includes attendance at our SOPAC School Series performances. These performances take place during the day and are based around curriculum throughout the areas, K through 12. As you can see, we've done very well. And even in January, in February, we've had 2 sellout shows, which I did not include in this report, but I don't want to steal Mark's thunder for his next report. Next slide. We've had many, many activities taking place in our loft. One of our primary focuses to get earned income in addition to ticket sales is also to utilize our space as absolutely much as possible. And that includes renting out the loft and the theater for various events. So you can see from July through January all of the various events that took place, everything from people's baby showers to full-on benefits for other nonprofit organizations. We also, again, did a partnership with WBGO. They have a children's musical series, and they bring a very well-known jazz artist to a venue, and it's offered free of charge, and the kids have a great time, and we were very happy to host that again. And Alex, thank you. I'm sorry. President Torpy, thank you for bringing the mayors over to SOPAC. You had a meeting, I know you had a press conference at the Department of Public Works, and then asked if you could come over, and we certainly open our doors whenever we can, and we had mayors from Essex and Morris County over at SOPAC, and we always love, to shine it up and show it off and encourage people to use it as much as possible. So, and I'm going to turn it over to Tony Leitner to do the real fun.
I'm going to take the role of John Zubek, our treasurer, in presenting our financial results for the 7 months through January 31st. Essentially, under the circumstances, I don't think we did too badly. Our total revenues were somewhat under budget, but the reason for that was that we did have to cancel or postpone a show as a result of Hurricane Sandy. We would have been expected with that particular show, which had been very successful when it was here before, to net $15,000 or $20,000. So that show is rescheduled for May. Hopefully we'll get it back. On the expense side, the main reason for the increase in expenses was that we had to conduct a search, so we have expenses as a result of conducting the research, as well as some startup expenses with regard to executing our new plan. So we expect that to stabilize as we move forward, and hopefully we had a budget that was expected to be a break-even budget for the rest of this year. By the way, another factor is that December, we weren't lit very much in December, and that was because when we made our change in leadership, and I want to thank, by the way, I want to thank Linda Honorevoli for the great job she did in stepping in and being our interim executive director for 7 months. The program that she inherited when she stepped in was in place, and it wasn't possible to fill out the December program with more dates. In an ideal situation, we would, and we expect next year to be lit throughout the month of December. Right? Right. Okay. Especially in the week between Christmas and New Year's, when all of us who are grandparents want to know what we can do with our kids. And especially because kids and family shows have been very both popular and lucrative for us. So we are hoping to improve the next time that we meet. One of the things that's already happened with Mr. Louie's involvement, working already with Mr. Packer, nothing has been done, by the way, since Mark accepted the job just around, it was a Christmas present, right, Mark? When he accepted the job, he's been very involved. No key decisions have been made without his involvement already, so we appreciate that. We've scheduled 3 shows already. There are some, hopefully we can talk about soon, that are going to be very exciting. One of the shows that Mr. Lurie was able to book with Mr. Packer's consent was a show that has already sold 100 tickets on the first day it was offered. That's counter trend. Our normal trend is everybody buys at the last minute, so it's very good to see us programming shows that people that already have an audience and people are anxious to see. So we're happy about that. So unless there are any questions, that concludes our update, and I hope you'll all have a chance to meet Mark at the earliest possible time and give him your thoughts, as because when he asks for it, he really means it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Before I go, just do packets you can press around. This includes our audited financials.
Thank you.
Steve, can you turn the projector on?
Violet.
Thank you. I'm going to turn it down.
That's not it.
Just trying to dial in our last trustee here. Actually, Steve, could you grab the sign-up sheet?
Room 520, please.
All inclusive.
Just flipped.
Un momento, por favor. Le voy a transferir a la operadora.
Un momento.
What country is he in?
Yes, try to reach room 520, 520.
520, money. Okay, let me transfer.
Thank you.
Gana con tu en all.
I didn't hear the name of that hotel.
What? Come on, you're going.
Hi, Barry.
You're on the Polycom. Trustee Goldberg is now joining the meeting.
Okay.
Can you hear us?
I can hear you fine, thank
Great.
you.
Oh, that's
Thanks.
nice.
Okay. All right, at this time, I'd like to open the meeting up for public comments. And I'd like to remind folks, if you could just keep your comments to 4 minutes, that would be great. And the first I have is Matthew Sheedy.
I'd like to share with the trustees the ongoing...
Name,
If you could just introduce yourself and your address, please.
Yes, Matt Sheedy, 254 Irving Avenue. I wanted to share with the trustees the ongoing commercial use of a single-family home in a residential neighborhood. Going back several years, there was a series of meetings with neighbors, Mr. Gross, the chief of police, the village engineer, the zoning enforcement officers, others. Ultimately, this led to the passing of a coach bus ban in an effort to mitigate this commercial use, the impact of this commercial use on the neighborhood. It was very ineffective. The tenant replaced the coach bus rather, with a series of other commercial vehicles, and the use is ongoing. Mr. Lewis assumed responsibility for this matter about a year ago. It led to an inspection that confirmed the commercial use in the home. After my last and another neighbor's visit to the Board of Trustees, the village attorney became involved, I think to some benefit over the prosecutor, who had been completely ineffective, not able to tell anyone when they should go to court, when they shouldn't go to court. I'd now ask that the trustees consider assigning somebody who can respond to reasonable questions from neighbors about the status of this matter. Voicemails and emails are not returned. We've cooperated to provide a tremendous amount of information to the village, and we're not being met with a similar respectful response from the staff that are working on this now.
Thank you. John Samaro.
John Samaro, 179 Scotland Road. This is to address the proposal that came out late today regarding the pedestrian safety plan. While this is a really good comprehensive plan, some of the actions that are in here, whether they be short-term, mid-term, or long-term, there's questions of it being reality, it being legal, and if it's even possible, and overall, really more the commitment of the Village of South Orange and the County of Essex to implement this type of plan. Everyone that's read it has said that this is an absolutely awesome plan if it's fully implemented. The concern is that we've been here before, we've listened, we've read, we've talked, we've exhausted ourselves, including myself, coming to numerous meetings here, and I would like to see someone give us a guarantee that what's put on paper here is going to be implemented, and if that is what's going to happen, then I think that you'll have a very happy community, balancing everything out. But we have to understand all of the parts, and to that, we need to be part of this discussion and not just report it to, on a bi-monthly basis as to what's going on. Because this, in fact, this issue and these issues that we've had for 9+ years that I've lived here, and many more years that other people have lived here, has been an ongoing issue. This is the first time that anyone has actually started to address it as of a year and a half ago. And this cuts across, at least while I've been living in town, 3 administrations, the first 2 which did absolutely nothing. This is the first time we actually do have actions being taken by both the county and the town. And I think that all residents in the area, whether they be pro or against, for or against the traffic light that was proposed by the county, thinks that this is a completely comprehensive plan, but is it real? Does it have reality? Does it have teeth? is there really a commitment by the town to fund this, by the county to fund something like this? And how long is the timeline for something like this? Because we've waited a hell of a long time for just to get where we are today, and we still don't have any remediation, and we still are dealing with the issue every day. Thank you.
Thank you. Alyssa Aronson?
Good evening. My name is Alyssa Aronson. I'm a longtime resident of South Orange. Good evening. Mayor Torpy, trustees. How many village employees do we have today? How many village employees did we have in 2007? 7. Sincerely and most sincerely, I'd like to know how many police officers we had in 2007 as we had today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public who wish to be heard at this time? If so, please come forward. Okay, seeing as there are no more members of the public who wish to speak, I'd like to close public comments and briefly just address a couple of the questions that were brought up. First, Mr. Rother, do you have any comments regarding, and I know you have a comprehensive update that you're going to do later this meeting,
Yes.
which is a change that we've made to the meeting structure so
Sure.
that in every board meeting after the village president's report and the village administrator's report, village council will give a report.
Yep.
So every board meeting, every conference agenda meeting where we report back, at the very least, all members of the public will get what can be disclosed publicly about what's happening with
Yep.
legal issues and litigation.
It's on the agenda for this
And it
meeting
is
as well.
right.
And just so that everyone knows, we've received any number of requests for private updates via email of litigation matters. And aside from the problem of numerous updates to residents, it's really inappropriate for council to be chatting with residents about litigation matters. While we do represent the municipality, we do so through the trustees. The trustees are our client, and we have an obligation of confidentiality. There are some things that we can make public, and we intend to do that on a regular basis. Twice a month at these meetings, I will be reporting on those aspects of all of the pending litigation that can be made public so that everyone hears the same report at the same time. And we think that that should well serve the need for the public to know what's going on as far as litigation is concerned.
Thank you. And quickly, there's going to be more discussion about the Scotland Road Traffic Pedestrian Safety Plan a little bit later when we bring it up. But to address a couple of the questions that were brought up, the guarantee is when this passes. If and when this passes, that is the guarantee. In the time that I've been here, at the very least, I don't believe we've passed a resolution by the board that has put forward a plan that they endorse as what to do. So that this is the guarantee. There are certain areas, there are a handful of these that we're not sure. For example, one of the pieces is whether we're allowed to create a safety corridor on Scotland Road the way that they do on highways. And so we want to explore the possibility of whether we're allowed to do that, which increases the statutory penalties for drivers in that corridor. We don't know if we can do that. That's one of the ones that the language is such that we're exploring that option. We don't know if we can do it. So, we couldn't put a timeline on that, nor could we put a timeline even on the traffic light at this point. That's something that the county is going to have to do. This is broken up into short-term and medium-term. Again, we're going to go into that a little bit more detail in a moment. Residents were involved in the creation of this plan through the South Orange Transportation Advisory Committee, and the best way to gather feedback is through an organizational structure such as that. If we're going to do it through a neighborhood association, either in replacement of or in addition to, we can decide that. But what we certainly really can't do, otherwise we're just going, just as Mr. Rother said about the legal updates, we have to do things through a particular sort of platform. If everybody at every moment is just emailing with ideas and questions, it's going to get too discombobulated and we're going to lose focus and we're not going to get things done quick enough. So we definitely need to organize how that feedback is gathered. And I think so far the Transportation Advisory Committee has been a really great mechanism for that. For example, as the neighborhood associations were excellent mechanisms for that when we were conducting community meetings about Hurricane Sandy. So we'll decide on exactly what those mechanisms are, and public feedback will definitely be part of that process, as it was part of the process so far. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. As far as the question about staffing levels, I don't know the 2,000 levels off the top of my head. Mr. Lewis, I don't know if, yeah, I mean, yeah, we can try and get those numbers, and if you want to stop by back to Village Hall, you know, we can get those numbers.
Can I ask a question about Mr. Rother's reports? So I'm assuming that the individuals will then have to watch the meetings. Is there another way to get the information once it's public? Because I live in the neighborhood and I understand what the residents have been going through and how disruptive it's been for them, I don't think it's unreasonable for them to get a bi-monthly update from somebody at Village Hall. They're probably trying to catch up on their sleep, during these meetings, because it is quite disruptive what's been happening. So is there another method for them to get this, whatever information you have, twice a month without watching? Other than through myself, because I won't be, few months I will not be the reporter.
Not to speak for Mr. Rother, I think that he's talking about the public in general. Certainly the one particular instance, there are two individuals that are witnesses, if you will, in the case, and by definition will have more direct input, update, when the schedules, when we would anticipate court dates, hearings. They will get more of a one-on-one type of report. The people that are directly involved in it, but as far as the general public, this is more enough. So quite frankly, once you hear the report, you'll know that there's no immediate need for witnesses in the case. I mean, we're at that point in this case where that's essentially not going to be an issue, I don't believe.
Right, I understand, but I understand and share the frustration with the residents of not being able to get information and being very disruptive in their personal lives by the activity at this particular house. So I think they can. I'm just trying to say it would be helpful for them to be able to have someone to answer their emails and phone calls, even if all you can say is, there's no update from 2 weeks ago. I'm really sorry, but here's where we're at.
Well, the same thing, trustee. The same thing's happening on East Orange Water. There are a lot of people who are upset about East Orange Water, and I'm getting a lot of inquiries there. I mean, I could spend a lot of time on email, on the phone, on various matters of litigation where people have interest, and I think it's important that they get the information. And I think twice a month is pretty good. We can reduce what's stated here in a minute and have it available.
Right, so we can post the update to the
great.
website, and also I think part of this is not necessarily even just the communication between the village and residents, but is that communication needs to happen between Mr. Lewis and myself, not Mr. Rother. So that residents, unless there is a question that comes to one of us and we're going to defer to him to answer the question, we can't have the attorney who is theoretically billing by the hour on some of these things communicating with residents just kind of on a free-for-all. So if the residents do have a question and they email us, and then we can direct him to respond if need be, or can direct people to the website if there's a recent post there.
I think it'd be helpful to have a post, because I'm getting a lot of,
So people do have questions about litigation. They should email myself and Mr. Lewis first, unless, again, they are involved in a case as a witness where they have a slightly different relationship than a general member of the public. And if we are able to, and if there's a reason to, we can direct our counsel to respond. And if not, we can direct to the website or say, the meeting's in a couple days, can you just wait till then, and there's going to be a full public update.
That's great.
And then take the public updates from the meeting and condense them and put them on the website.
Right.
So
That would be
they can
really helpful.
Go look at the tape of the whole meeting
Great.
and find the spot. Okay.
Thank you, very helpful.
So the next section of the agenda is the approval of minutes. Ms. Klein, I don't know if, I know you have this organized a particular way in my agenda. I don't know if you want to go through them in that fashion, if that's going to be easiest.
Yes, President Torpey, I would prefer for this meeting, since at the January regular meeting we were not able to approve those minutes, we do have quite a few meetings to approve tonight. Because of the attendance might have changed for the trustees, I kind of grouped them according to those date periods. And that way, if there's a question as to whether or not a trustee was present, we can, on the record, make that known right away.
So it looks like there are there are 4 groups, I think.
Yeah.
So we can do each block as a separate.
Please, yes.
As a separate motion?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
So if I could start that out, the first group are the January 14th meeting minutes. We had the continuation meeting of the December 17th, 2012 meeting. We had a special meeting and the conference agenda meeting as well. So if we could get a motion and a second.
Do you have, Andy, who the eligible, it might, if you just say who's eligible to vote on them.
Oh, certainly.
I was absent.
Does Trustee Bauer was absent at that
Yeah.
meeting?
Thank you.
I'm actually not sure that if someone watched the meeting on the video and read the minutes, I'm not sure that they can't vote on it.
Well, they couldn't read the minutes because it's.
Well, they could watch it on the video and vote on it.
I agree.
So I move the minutes for the three.
So it was moved by Trustee Rosner,
Second.
seconded by Trustee Davis Ford. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you. The next set of minutes is for the January 22nd budget workshop.
I'll move.
Second.
Moved by Trustee Rosner, seconded by Trustee Levison. This is the one where you.
I'm out, yeah, I'm out. So I don't
all
know
in-
if I'm abstaining
all in favor?
or out.
Abstain.
Abstain.
Any opposed? And Trustee Gould is abstaining.
I'm abstaining. I'm abstaining from here on in.
Thank you. The next set of minutes would be for the January 28th regular meeting.
I'll move.
Moved by Trustee Rosner,
Second.
seconded by Trustee Levison. So is that a question? I don't know if that's a question either for Mr. Roth or Ms. Klein. If someone did watch the full video, but they weren't part of the quorum of the meeting, are you eligible to vote? My instinct is that they have to be part of the members present.
That's been,
Yes.
yes.
Because someone could say they watched the meeting, I mean, not to say that that's,
I would say
But
they'd have to be part.
as part of the attendance. And it's,
all right.
Yeah.
Okay, so as long as we're all on the same page about that.
So they have to be here.
So the January 28th regular meeting, which is the one we're considering now, Trustee Goldberg and Trustee Gould were absent. Do you have a motion?
move.
It was moved.
We have a motion and a second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstain.
Thank you. Our next set of minutes would be for the February 11th special meeting and the February 11th conference agenda meeting.
I'll move.
Moved by Trustee Rosner,
Second.
seconded by Trustee Levison. This meeting, Trustee Goldberg and Trustee Gould were absent. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm abstaining.
Then Trustee Goldberg and Gould are abstaining.
Thank you. The last set of minutes tonight for approval would be February 13th. This was the budget workshop meeting of the board.
Okay.
I move.
Moved by Trustee Levison,
Second.
seconded by Trustee Rosner. At this meeting, Trustee Bauer, Trustee Goldberg, and Trustee Gould were absent. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm abstaining.
Abstain.
The three that were absent are abstaining.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. That wasn't too bad. We have a couple ordinances on second reading tonight.
Our first ordinance is ordinance number 2013-01. This is an ordinance pursuant to NJSA Title 48, 17-10, authorizing the license of certain premises, more particularly described in the attached agreement to Cablevision of Newark.
Thank you. Mr. Lewis, is there anything that you'd care to comment on this?
No, we discussed it before. This is to facilitate running of the line through the parking lot and connecting up to the building that has UPS store and all that stuff, service, and it doesn't go through the parking lot. They'll restore any sections that are disturbed.
Okay, thank you. Seeing as this is the second reading, I'd like to open this ordinance up for public hearing. So if there are any members of the public who wish to comment on this ordinance in particular, please come forward. Seeing as there are no members of the public who wish to comment on this ordinance, I'd like to close the public hearing and ask the board if there are any questions or comments.
I have a question. If I wasn't here for first reading, can I vote in second reading, or do I have to abstain?
Oh, you can vote.
I can vote? All right. Thank you.
Vote twice.
Do we have a motion?
Move.
Moved by Trustee Levison,
Second.
seconded by Trustee Davis Ford. Do we have the roll, please?
Thank you. Trustee Bauer,
Yes.
Trustee Davis Ford,
Yes.
Trustee Goldberg,
Yes.
Trustee Gould,
Yeah.
Trustee Levinson,
Yes.
and Trustee Rosner.
Yes.
Thank you. So ordinance 2013-01 has been adopted. We have a second ordinance tonight for second reading. This is ordinance 2013-02, an ordinance establishing salary ranges for members of the OPIEU for the years 2011 through 2013.
Thank you. I don't know if it matters, but the title of the ordinance has the I and the E switched.
Well, it's
It should be EI.
It's EI. I don't know if it's just in the agenda.
Okay. All right, at this time, seeing this is the second reading of this ordinance, I'd like to open this up for public hearing. Seeing as there are no members of the public who wish to comment on this, I'd like to close the public hearing. Are there any questions from any board members? Can I have a motion, please?
I move.
Moved by Trustee Davis Ford,
I second.
seconded by Trustee Rosner. Could we have the roll, please?
Thank you. Trustee Bauer?
Yes.
Trustee Davis Ford?
Yes.
Trustee Goldberg?
Yes.
Trustee Gould?
Yes.
Trustee Levinson?
Yes.
Trustee Rosner?
Yes.
Thank you. So ordinance 2013-02 has been adopted.
Thank you. At this point, I'd like to move to the consent agenda.
Thank you. We have a number of resolutions on tonight's consent agenda. We have a resolution authorizing the village president to execute a 2013 service agreement with YouthNet. This is the amount not to exceed $15,000. A resolution awarding a competitive contract to Brown & Brown Insurance for risk management services for the Township of South Orange Village. A resolution awarding a competitive contract to Hatch Mott McDonald for the preparation of specifications and contract documents and contract administration and inspection for asbestos abatement of Village Hall. A resolution awarding a contract renewal to the Giordano Company for single-stream recycling, collection, and disposal services for the period January 1st, 2013 through December 31st, 2013. This is the amount not to exceed $9,444 per month. A resolution awarding a contract to the South Mountain YMCA for basketball program collaboration services in the Department of Recreation and Cultural Affairs. This is the amount not to exceed $15,000. There is a resolution awarding a professional service contract to hire Gruel & Associates to serve as village planner. A resolution awarding a professional service contract to Post Pollock, Goodsell, McNeil, and Strackler, PA, to serve as village counsel. A resolution hiring a per diem dispatcher in the South Orange Department of Public Safety Police Force. A resolution hiring teachers for the spring cultural arts educational programming in the Department of Recreation and Cultural Affairs. A resolution granting a raffle license to the PTO Wyoming School for an on-premise cash raffle, and a resolution granting a raffle license to the PTO Wyoming School for an on-premise merchandise raffle. A resolution authorizing the sale of the Old Stone House and approving advertisement for the sale of same. A resolution approving the Scotland Road Traffic and Pedestrian Safety Plan. A resolution approving a capital maintenance policy for open space trust funds. And we have a resolution appointing Chanel Smith as our Deputy Village Clerk for the Township of South Orange Village pursuant to Section 5-28 of the Village Code.
Thank you. Before I ask for questions from the trustees, I have two quick comments about the consent agenda. One is the last one I'd like to do on its own. Like to, when we're considering a resolution to appoint somebody, like to make that our own separate resolution, not part of all the rest of the consent agenda. And the other is I want to briefly give an overview of the Scotland Road Traffic Pedestrian Safety Plan. This was distributed to everybody on Friday. The final version was distributed today and posted on the website as well. In the last meeting, I was directed by the board to work with Trustee Bauer to put together a resolution and plan that basically incorporates all the different pieces that were brought up last meeting, so that we didn't want to use the kind of boilerplate resolution, let's just put in a traffic light, but we wanted to be a lot more comprehensive than that. So for those of you that are watching or don't have the plan in front of you, and there are 1 or 2 extra copies on the desk up here in case there's anybody here who does want to see it. The plan is broken, and this is posted on the website now, and certainly after adoption it would be posted as well. So it's broken into a couple different sections. The first section basically just lists out what the plan is in not a lot of detail, but the short term, actionables, and medium term. So I'll read through these quickly. Number 1 is the plan creates primary and secondary crosswalks and assigns each intersection in the improvement zone to one of the 2 categories. And it's basically every intersection except for one dead end intersection on Scotland, I think. And all of them are secondary except for Montrose in Scotland, which already has a traffic control device, and Raymond in Scotland, which is also listed as primary. Each category of the intersection is going to have a different focus and level of improvements that are needed. Primary being more used pedestrian crossings like Scotland and Raymond. So that includes repainted lines, possible use of thermoplastic instead of paint, early yield line painting and in-street signage, so not just yield signs on a sign on the side of the street, but what's found to be more effective at getting drivers' attention is paint on the ground in front of the crosswalk as well. Exploring potentially the construction of brick crosswalks, a red light traffic device, focus of police enforcement on vehicles that fail to yield to pedestrians, and the potential presence of a traffic control officer or crossing guard. The secondary crosswalks would receive repainting or painting. Most of them don't have any crosswalks that seem to ever have existed on the road. Early yield painting and signage, and also exploring potentially brick crosswalk construction. The third point of the plan is a targeted police enforcement plan. Number 4 is a no tolerance policy going into effect for commercial vehicle speeding, which would involve myself reaching out to the commercial entities that we have identified as being frequent traffic violators, and informing them that starting on a particular date, there will be no more warnings. There will only be tickets issued to the drivers of these vehicles that are traveling too quick down Scotland. Number 5 is whether or not we get a safe driver corridor legal status, but is to make sure to place signage on the north and south ends of Scotland Road, alerting drivers that this is a corridor, a safe driving corridor, even if it's not legally one. And on that sign will also be the sign that tells you what your speed is. One of the ancillary benefits of that is that some of those signs can actually collect data about speeding, so we can use those signs to actually measure. The ones that show you how fast you're going, we can actually use those, we can have them turned off for a week or two, for example, and collect data on what the speeding is, and then turn them on and repaint the crosswalks, and we can actually do performance benchmarking and measure how much of an impact each of the improvements makes in this overall plan by using the data from those signs. Number 6, taking a larger view of Scotland Road and looking at streetscape improvements. Our engineer had actually worked up what looked to be a pretty good plan a number of years ago, and that includes installing more residential street lighting, like gas lamp looking fixtures that would probably be electric but would look like gas lamps, improve vegetation, and also improve sidewalk and curb construction, just to make it look more like a residential pedestrian neighborhood. Number 7 is working with the county and the state Department of Transportation about whether we are allowed to create an actual legal safe driving corridor that increases the statutory penalties that our officers are allowed to give to drivers that are in violation in that zone. Number 8 is looking at the possibility of installing a traffic safety. It's not really a security camera, but a traffic safety camera at that intersection, and that could assist us in follow-up investigations for drivers that do fail to yield or do run the red light or are speeding. We can't use the light in the video feed to actually do police enforcement, but if a resident or a crossing guard or somebody notices someone and wants to file a complaint, we'll be able to use the footage from that light to pull that person's license plate information, and that person would actually be able to successfully file that complaint. Number 9 is kind of the biggest one, which is working with the Transportation Advisory Committee and Essex County to determine exactly what type of red light device we need to install. There's been kind of different discussions and questions over whether it's semi-actuated or fully actuated, meaning whether it's timed or whether it's using a cycle or whether it's using both, whether when you hit the pedestrian button you get a 4-way stop, whether it's only a 2-way stop, whether there's pedestrian crossing every time the cycle changes. So there's a handful of issues that we haven't yet, as far as I know, gotten clarity on about what the intention of the county is with that particular light. Number 10 is implementing this plan and using data from any of the electronic signs that we use or our police department to try and measure the effectiveness as we go. So we want to be able to look at each of these things and say they work, they didn't work, and if they do work, we can also share that with other communities that are having speeding problems and share some of our best practices, so not only for use in other areas in town where there might be speeding, but also for other towns that are possibly facing some of the same challenges. The next 8 pages or 9 pages I put together is basically a description of each of these items point by point, I'm not going to read through all of those right now. It doesn't really seem necessary to do so. Again, if you do want to look at that, that is on the website. The one last point I wanted to make is that that's number 9 point, the installation of a red light signal. That the intention of this plan is for the Board of Trustees in the village to endorse the county's request or intention to put in a traffic light there, basically saying, well, even though you haven't worked out the exact details of what the pedestrian crossing is going to be, the timings and things like that, we do endorse the installation of this light pending that those issues do get figured out in the next week, 2 weeks after this resolution passes. But the resolution is the endorsement or support that the county was asking us for to go ahead and do this. But still, again, keeping in mind that there were a few issues that needed to be considered and worked out.
I just want to take the opportunity here to commend both Trustee Bauer and you for putting together what I think is a comprehensive plan and crafting the resolution based on that. And it appears that it may address the issues of the residents who've been asking for some sort of relief and from the traffic and the potential injuries that may result from not doing something. So I know that you both invested some time in it and through your research and leveraging Trustee Bauer's expertise in traffic and areas of such. I think you've done a good job, and I'm going to support this resolution.
And just one quick thing I wanted to add, thank you for that, is that part of the idea of breaking this up into some short-term and long-term things was that this traffic light is not going to be done tomorrow. I don't know what the timeline is. I'm not 100% sure how long it will take to do. I think a lot of that is going to be up to the county and whether there's money allocated already in the 2013 budget and et cetera, when the weather gets nice and all those sort of things. So, but we're looking months and many months out before the installation of that could even begin, and they're going to have to figure out some way to divert traffic around that intersection while it's being built. So the idea was that while that is all being explored, we're going to start to make improvements right now.
And that's what I like about the first, intermediate, long term. But through you, Mr. President, maybe we can invite the representative from the county who is our liaison for South Orange. Frank DelGuardio is sitting right here. He wears multiple hats. He's our liaison, but also he is the risk manager for the county and is involved in these type of requests from municipalities.
Sure, Mr. DelGuardio, is there anything that you'd like to add about this tonight?
How long something like this may take?
Frank DelGuardio, municipal liaison from Essex County. The process on the county end is an ordinance would have to be proposed, go before the Board of Freeholders, read in, then they would take a bid spec, the engineering handled through the Department of Public Works. So it's quite a process to put a signal in. And just to clarify something about the warrant analysis that was done, I mean, there's many topics that appear on a warrant analysis, and the one that reflected that came back in the report as warranting, it's just would warrant a signal. It wasn't necessarily saying that it would be a signal, but that is one of the recommendations of the report. So I'm not an expert in traffic safety, and it goes back to Public Works, and I had sent a copy of the proposal to our county engineer, and I'm sure he's reviewing it right now, because knowing the way he works, he does things day and night. So definitely is under review, and I will hear more about it tomorrow morning.
Thank you. Are there any other questions, comments?
Yeah, my comment is that this whole plan will only work, a traffic light will only work if we do some of these other points that were made in there, because a traffic light by itself would not solve the issue. And all these things are great points, and if we can get most of them done, it would be great. The real question, of course, is that we need Sal, and maybe the Transportation Committee, to put forth the budget of what we're doing, and it needs to get to us rather quickly, at least a rough sketch. So if we're going to do any of the work this year with the county, what the impact of our budget is, what the impact of the budget is this year and next year, because I'm sure we're not going to be able to do everything this year. But we need some of those numbers right away, and we also need to know what the county would put forth and if it's worth going for a grant on these things from the Department of Transportation, because I would think that this is the kind of road and the kind of project that would be perfect for a grant, since it's being done with the county at the same time. So, before that, we have to have someone coordinate all that. I assume Sal will be the one.
Yeah, and to that end, I should have mentioned before, just because this seems to be an issue of confusion when discussing these kind of topics, that a traffic light does nothing to help reduce speeding. In fact, in some cases, they can sometimes make it a little bit worse. But it's not, a traffic light is not for speeding. The Warren analysis talked about tuning, which is basically the timing of vehicles and the spread of the vehicles on Scotland Road, and that the signal breaks that up. Part of the reason I know that we're interested in it is to allow pedestrians to cross the road. But again, the traffic light is not going to solve a speeding problem. So part of the idea is to take kind of this, holistic approach where we're looking at all the options and really trying to convert Scotland from kind of looking like a highway into looking like a nice residential road, which is what it is. It's not a side street, certainly, and I don't think anyone here expects it to be, but it is a residential neighborhood. On a road with, no crossing markings and things like that, it doesn't really necessarily look as such. So if we have gas lights and we have painted or brick crosswalks and you have all these other things, basically, gives the idea to the driver. And modifying driver's behavior is a very difficult thing to do, as any traffic engineer or police officer or anybody would tell you, although we probably all notice it. And so doing as much as possible so that when someone gets onto Scotland, comes around that bend, either coming from South Orange Ave or coming out of Orange, that they see the crosswalks, they see the lights, they see that it's well maintained, like this is an area that is not for speeding in. And that's the message that we want to get across.
Mr. President, I was planning to ask for 44 and 50 to be voted on separately. So it seems like in advance of that, we've already been discussing that, but I'll have some separate comments on 50.
You want to take 44 and 50 out?
Yes, please.
Okay.
And I'd like to add 51 to that as well.
And 51.
Which one did you ask about?
51.
Okay, so we can save any more comments on any of those until we vote on them. Are there any other questions on anything that is still in the consent agenda?
I have a question on 43. I don't want to pull it out, but I just have a question on it. Just wanted to know how that was vetted and then how that conclusion was come up with to stay with the same plan.
We met with two members of the planning board, or three were invited. Three from the Board of Adjustment. I invited the planning and zoning members, but you said you couldn't make it when we had the meeting, and I was there, and we went over all the RFPs that came back, but it was the planning board and Board of Adjustment on their own each came up to the same conclusion to stay with Higher Rule, and we felt that it's best for the village to use the same planner as them, partly because of the cost savings, and probably because we didn't have a recommendation for any other planner at this time. But the planning board and the Board of Adjustment both unanimously picked.
Okay, great, thank you.
Any other questions on anything that's still in the consent agenda?
Yeah, maybe the administrator could talk a little bit more about number 40, which is about the contract to Hatchmont McDonald for the preparation of specs for asbestos abatement. I'm just concerned that we're starting to go down the slippery slope path of, incremental costs. I mean, we knew this was coming, but this was not the lowest bidder, as I found out from the engineer, although it didn't say it in the resolution. And we know once the specs are prepared, we know that then the asbestos abatement then needs to be done. We still don't have a cost estimate on relocation. So this cost estimate for Village Hall, which was originally $5 million, is now probably all in $7 million plus and growing. And I'm just afraid we're repeating the same mistakes as SOPAC, where piece by piece by piece we're taking these little nibbles, and next thing you know, you're $10 million in. So maybe you could explain what this project is and how this vendor was chosen?
Yeah, specifically this is in two things. This is an award of a contract. We went out for proposals for professional services to prepare the specifications and then oversee the actual work of the asbestos abatement. They would prepare the specifications under which we would then go out to bid, hire an abatement contractor to remove and dispose of all the asbestos. One thing on this, and my apologies to the board, I did note this afternoon, I think I got copied actually on an email from Trustee Goldberg. I was under the impression that when the engineer sent in this item, there was a couple of attachments. One was a memo from the construction manager, the other was a spreadsheet. I thought that that had been done via the job form and that everyone already got it. And now looking back, I see it was just an email to myself and the clerk, which is also, I get it via an email when it's job form. But in a nutshell, we went out for proposals. The proposals, we got a number of proposals. They each bid certain hourly rates for certain, different titles and individuals in different positions within their firm. But then each also incorporated an estimate of time by which they then multiplied the hourly rates. The result of which there were two bids that were lower than this bid of Hatchmont McDonald. However, the construction manager, upon reviewing it, as well as our village engineer, were both concerned that the two lower bids were based on an estimate of only a couple of weeks of time as the time period under which they were projecting you could abate all the asbestos in the building and multiplied by the hourly rates. The construction manager did an analysis where he basically took all the hourly rates and then sort of leveled the playing field and applied those to if all were bidding on the same number of hours, which would be the recommended one, and that's where he came up with this recommendation for Hatchmont McDonald.
Now, Barry, my biggest concern is there just hasn't been a full accounting of the entire project budget in quite some time. The last time we really looked at the aggregate cost for the entire project in a public meeting was probably about a year and a half ago. And I just think it's important in the interest of transparency, and quite frankly, if this isn't time sensitive, I would almost suggest we table this until we get a full accounting of this project. I know a lot of people are saying the train's already left the station, but I'm afraid this is a runaway train, and it's just out of control.
No, I share your concern, and the intention was to ask the village president to include on the next conference agenda some time for this specific purpose, and I've already invited the construction manager. I'm not so sure that the architect is necessary, but we can weigh that as well as our village engineer. In advance of that, they did complete the 50% design drawing. There was a cost estimate done, which itself then generated a number of questions, and there's been a number of follow-up items, both by the engineer, myself, and more importantly by the construction manager. And I think that is all kind of getting crystallized, and the plan would be to then put forth in advance of that meeting on March 11th sort of a layout of a report of it. This is where it looks like we're at right now based on where we're at. This is where our current funding sources are. We're exploring additional funding sources, and then have a discussion at the March 11th meeting with the construction manager, president, the village engineer, and if warranted, the architect.
So to that point, I mean, I know obviously we want to keep things moving, but in all honesty, we talked about this contract in Public Works Committee back in December, thinking we'd be voting on it then, and here it is end of February. So I'm wondering if an additional 2 weeks is going to make a difference. Can we sit on this for 4 weeks?
It'd be the next regular meeting. Mr. Lewis, I mean,
we can just
do you have an assessment of the time sensitivity of this? Whether waiting a month, putting it off a month is...
Well, no, I mean, it is time sensitive. Certainly, if the village president would entertain it, if we had that discussion on the 11th, then you would then be inclined to add a resolution on that.
Well, the discussion will be after
the special meeting.
I certainly don't want to hold up the project.
Let's have some comments from other trustees. How about you, Levinson or
Rosner? I prefer not holding it up. The other is that I'd like to dispel any estimate of $7 million. We have not gotten any estimates, and I don't want to throw numbers around that are not substantiated.
How about you, Rosner?
I feel like if we're ready to keep moving ahead with the project, I should not be delaying.
Absolutely.
For this kind of thing. This one's not really, this particular one's not a surprise. This has been discussed. And
Mark, can you speak a little closer to your microphone? I'm sorry, I can't hear you at all.
I thought you had your live streaming video on too. I don't want to put more delays on the project if we don't have to, and this has not been something, this is something that's been discussed, and we've been down the road before, so I'm just not quite sure what the point in waiting on this part of it is. There are other parts which we have to keep moving, and every time we delay one part, we delay the rest of it, and every time we do delays, it just increases the total cost of the project. And I don't know how long this bid's good for, or the construction manager, and so forth and so on. So I'm not really sure what the point is of holding off.
Well, we can put it to a vote as well.
You put it to a vote. and
Trustee
you
Goldberg,
vote
do you want me
for it.
to remove this and have this voted on separately as well?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
Okay, are there any questions on any other items that, the few left that are remaining on our consent agenda? I'm sorry, it's really not a public comment period at this point. It's okay. Well, we actually do have one in a moment, though, when we're right when we're done with this. I'm sorry, that was number 40. Okay, so I'm gonna, in a moment. So I'd like to ask for a motion to move the consent agenda minus
40,
40,
44,
44,
50,
51, and 52.
and 52.
Okay.
So we're on the same page.
I move.
Okay, moved by Trustee Davis Ford,
Second?
seconded by Trustee Gould. Could we have the roll, please?
Thank you. Trustee Bauer?
Yes.
Trustee Davis Ford?
Yes.
Trustee Goldberg?
Yes.
Trustee Gould?
Yes.
Trustee Levinson?
Yes.
Thank you. So the
How
consent
about Trustee
agenda.
Rosner?
That's okay.
Oh,
Did you like it?
Trustee Rosner, I'm thinking ahead.
Yeah, chopped liver says yes.
Chopped liver says it. Okay.
Make,
I got that in the minutes too.
get his vote first next time.
Certainly will. Thank you. So the consent agenda has been approved. Resolutions 40, 44, 50, 51, and 52 were removed for separate action.
Okay, so let's go through those one by one, and let's start with 40.
Thank you. This is a resolution awarding a competitive contract to Hatchmont McDonald for the preparation of specifications and contract documents and contract administration and inspection for the asbestos abatement for
I
Village
move.
Hall.
Thank you. Moved by Trustee Levison,
Second.
seconded by Trustee Rosner.
Call on Rosner first.
Could we have the roll, please?
Can't even spell his name.
Liver.
Thank you. Trustee Rosner.
Yes.
Trustee Bauer.
Yes.
Trustee Davis Ford.
Yes.
Trustee Goldberg.
No.
Trustee Gould.
Yes.
Trustee Levinson.
Yes.
Thank you. So resolution 40 has passed.
Okay, next is 44.
I move.
Okay, just so everyone's on the same page.
Yeah, let me just read it into the record. This is a resolution awarding a professional service contract to Post Pollock, Goodsell, McNeil, and Strackler to serve as village council.
Okay, moved by Trustee Levison,
Second.
seconded by Trustee Davis Ford. Unless there's any questions or comments, could we have the roll?
Thank you. I'll start with...
Wait.
A question?
Trustee Goldberg?
Just from a process perspective, like, I mean, I know we went out for an RFP on this, at the end of last year, and it was discussed that apparently it was referred to the legal committee, but no discussion ever came out of that was shared at a meeting. While I was not at the last meeting, I did watch the video and read the minutes, and this was never discussed as to what the outcome of that of the review of those responses were.
Resolution.
Yes. There's a resolution as a result of the review
But there was no discussion about the analysis that was
Would you like to
done.
have, there was a discussion.
Discussion in the legal committee.
In the legal committee. So what would you like to discuss now?
Help me understand your analysis, how your decision was made.
We looked at the
three
responses.
bidders.
I think we had 3.
Right.
And as a result of our analysis, this is the one that we thought that we should put for
What the contract?
resolution to represent the village.
Based on what factors?
There was, basically there were 3 firms. The RFP, which was basically verbatim from the last RFP, was advertised League of Municipalities, Bar Journal, a number of other places, I believe. We received 3 responses. including the one that's recommended. Of the other two respondents, one had bid the same annual retainer amount of $60,000 per year. The third one bid an annual retainer of $98,000 per year. Which is one was $5,000 a month, the other's $9,000 a month. The current council and the recommended choice is also the $5,000 a month retainer. Hourly rate of the recommended firm is $125 an hour. The other two firms, the second firm was $150 an hour for attorney time, and the third was 180 hours for a partner attorney time, $150 an hour for associate time. So the retainer, the recommended firm was equal to the other lowest, and the third one was higher than that. And on the hourly rate, the recommended firm was the lowest hourly rate across the board, and it was for all attorneys without a distinction between partners and associates.
And in addition to that, we also were able to factor in addition to that, our known performance history with the firm that we included in this resolution.
Were interviews done of the other firm to assess their credentials?
Yes, we did. We reviewed their proposals.
I said, were interviews done?
Interviews were done.
No.
No, we reviewed their proposals.
Are there any other questions? Okay, we had a motion and a second. We have the roll, please.
Thank you. I will start with Trustee Davis Ford.
Yes.
Trustee Goldberg.
No.
Trustee Gould.
I'm abstaining.
Trustee Levinson.
Yes.
Trustee Rosner.
Yes.
Thank you.
And
So,
Trustee Bauer.
I'm
If
sorry,
you're gonna
Trustee
do a round
Bauer.
robin, you gotta keep a
Wow,
checklist.
what a night for the clerk. Trustee Bauer.
No.
Thank you. All right, 3 affirmative votes, it does pass.
Passed.
Okay.
Yeah, abstention counts as a no
I think
vote.
there's 3 affirmative.
There's 3
two no's
affirmative and 3
abstention.
negative. There's
So
a
we're
tie vote.
technically in a tie.
All right.
All right. You get.
Yeah, an abstention is a no.
Abstention is a no.
Is a no.
Oh, it is?
Yes.
I didn't know
For this
that.
purpose, it's got to be counted as a no. It's a tie vote.
Thank you,
So
council.
it's, you get the
So
spotlight, Mr.
I will
President.
then call on President Torpy for your vote on Resolution 044.
Yes.
Thank you. So with 4 affirmative votes, the resolution does pass.
Next is number 50, I believe, which is the traffic safety plan.
I have a number of questions on the traffic safety plan. In my view, the number 50 is passing the resolution. The resolution does reference the Scotland Road Traffic and Pedestrian Safety Plan. So let me ask my questions. On the first page, even though the pages are not numbered, under primary crosswalk needs, number 4 says red light signal traffic device medium term. So later in the document under number 9, it says in italics about 4th paragraph down, by adopting this plan by resolution, the board and the village is endorsing the county's intention of the installation of a signal at this intersection. Does this intersection mean Raymond and Scotland?
Yes.
Okay. And providing them, I assume that means the county, them with the village's support to properly move forward now, understanding that all of the questions regarding timing, etc., are to be worked out immediately following the adoption of this plan. So it seems to me that immediately is somewhat inconsistent with medium term. So I want to get a sense of what the timeline is, and what I would suggest is that we put a time period on it for these questions regarding timing, quote, et cetera, to be worked out. 30 days, 60 days, something.
Well, the immediately and the medium term are obviously not in conflict. The medium term is the installation of the light. Deciding what to install and the installation are two different things. One is a lot quicker. The deciding is probably going to be immediately. I'd be happy to set a timeline on that. I said a week or two before. I'm happy to say 2 weeks or 30 days.
Why don't we say 30
whatever people are
days?
comfortable with, 30 days.
So my suggestion is that the plan at number 9 be changed to say, instead of this intersection, the intersection of Raymond and Scotland, instead of providing them, providing the county, instead of immediately, within 30 days. Is that acceptable to everybody?
That's fine.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that you're putting definitive timeline.
The other suggestions I have are on page 2 and elsewhere in the more detailed document where it says commercial vehicle speeding. One of the things that has been noted is the NJT 92 bus. Is it acceptable to say commercial trucks and public buses? Or just buses, it doesn't have to be
So
public.
you're worried that because New Jersey Transit isn't commercial, that it's not covered under this?
That's correct. It's not, commercial vehicle generally tends to mean truck.
You want, what
I
wording
didn't know
would
if
you,
you
what
wanted
wording
to
would you like?
exclude them.
No, of course, this is all encompassing
Okay.
of all of those vehicles.
Just says commercial, I would say truck and bus. That covers, trucks cover every size truck.
Oh, yeah, commercial trucks and buses.
Fine, okay.
Although technically, I mean, that's, okay.
So why
Just trucks and buses?
just trucks and buses?
Trucks and buses?
Yeah, I was gonna say, commercial still has the same, it's still there.
Trucks and buses or something.
Yeah.
Truck and bus speeding, but what about, is there another type of vehicle that we're not thinking
Why are
about?
you restricting commercial? Why are you restricting it to commercial?
Yeah, it should be, if you just say trucks and buses,
The only,
that's
there are
everybody.
really only 4 types of vehicles. There are personal cars, there are liveries, black cars, taxis, and so forth.
Why don't we
In
say
other
for
words,
non-personal
cars.
vehicles?
Fine, excellent.
That
That's
includes
fine.
everything
That's
else.
fine, okay. There are trucks and there are buses. And the other substantive comment that I have is that for brick crosswalks, it's not entirely clear to me because that comes under both primary and secondary in the more detailed document. I think that brick crosswalks are actually not going to be in concert with the historic district, which does include the streets, the curbs, the gutters, you name it, everything in the Montrose Park Historic District. And I know for a fact that the brick look surfaces would never be allowed. Not only do they just kind of scream like, we'd like brick, but we can't afford it, but, so I would just question whether brick is really a part of this.
So what language would you suggest?
I would say any place that it says that, you know, that they will be installed or anything like that, that they may be looked at subject to State Historic Preservation Office.
Well, that was the intention of the potential brick crosswalk construction, if you'd like to reword that. Because I would like to talk, I mean, I don't think that the pavement on Scotland Road is particularly historic. Maybe the line paintings for the crosswalks were, which is why we can't see them anymore. But if there's any wording you want there to change that, I'm happy to, you know, exploring the possibility if you want to make that a little bit lighter so it doesn't sound as committed.
Well,
I think that's fine. I'd like to talk with the with Montrose Historic Preservation Association and with anybody who's interested.
I would say with the Montrose Historic District. I'm not sure we need the Historic Association Committee.
Why don't we just say subject to SHPO?
It's the state.
Subject to SHPO approval, yeah.
Okay.
Yep, that's good.
So wherever it says potential brick crosswalk construction, comma, subject to State Historic Preservation Office.
Right.
Okay.
And the last thing is there's a number of, or there's some places where it's discussed, for instance, again, not, I guess this is number 6, at the end of number 6, by improving street lighting, vegetation, and exploring the possibility of more significant bump out or other curb sidewalk improvements. I think whenever you get into a situation where the road is encroached upon, the travel way is encroached upon, like a bump out, that's going to be interpreted as a traffic calming measure. Traffic calming measures are not going to be permitted on this road. I did ask at the last meeting if we could have Village Council investigate with DOT what traffic calming measures are prohibited by the over 3,000 ADT, not totally self-contained street. I'm probably,
We
you haven't
have
had
a
a chance.
draft, we have a memo in
Okay.
draft right now.
Okay, good. So I think we should just make note of that because that may not be allowed.
Yeah, and that was one of those things that was kind of the, for example, this, but not necessarily that.
Right. Well, I mean, that's one of the reasons I objected to not having a more detailed resolution, because I feel like, you know, we passed a resolution, but then we have a plan that says, you know, these are all good ideas, which I agree with, and, you know, maybe they have applicability. So to me, that's not really a plan. That's, I don't know what that is. So, but I'm happy to pass the resolution because I think it has sufficient commitment to the signal that everything else, whether it's subject to SPO, subject to DOT, whatever it's subject to the county, it's not even our road, that'll all be sort of figured out in the past. I mean, in the future.
And I think just a comment on that. I think one of the ways that we can approach this, and we can, I guess, talk more about it, is that in some of the improvements that we could potentially make to Scotland Road, is that they are not really traffic calming measures, but they're improvements, they're streetscape improvements, and maybe that's a way to approach some of these things too.
Yeah, I would love to make streetscape improvements. I mean,
Sounds
it's
great.
not our road though, so
Right.
I question what we're doing. I think we should be talking them into doing it and making
That
an
was
open
my-
space grant to us so we can do some
That was
other
my point
things.
before, but
Exactly. I concur with that. So with those changes,
Yeah, those changes are all fine.
I'll move it.
Moved by Trustee Rosner.
Second.
Seconded by Trustee Davis Ford. Could we have a roll call, please?
Thank you. And this will be the resolution as amended. I'll start with Trustee Goldberg.
No.
I'm going to get this straight. Thank you. Trustee Gould?
Yes.
Trustee Levinson?
Yes.
Trustee Rosner?
Yes.
Trustee Bauer?
thank you. Yes.
Trustee Davis Ford?
Yes.
Thank you.
Robin, terrific.
I got through Resolution 2013-05, and it has passed. We now go to Resolution number 52.
51.
I'm sorry, 51. This is a resolution approving a capital maintenance policy for open space trust funds.
I move.
Second.
Moved by Trustee Levison, seconded by Trustee Bauer. Unless there's any question, can we have the roll?
I have some questions about the Open Space Trust Fund. I'm somewhat concerned with some of the language in the resolution. I'm real worried that this is just going to become sort of day-to-day maintenance and that we're going to lose focus of some other capital projects that I feel the Open Space Trust Funds should be used for. And I'm also worried about the process. I want to make sure we have some sort of a mechanism for recommending how the fund should be used. I'm concerned about what's going to be coming down the pike by not having something strictly in place. And we haven't talked to the Open Space Trust Fund. I don't even know who's on the Open Space Trust Fund, if they've met, if we have a committee. So I'd actually like to table this until we have the process more under control and then come back to it again.
I agree with you on that.
Well, we do have a motion on the floor, so we would have to...
We have to vote.
We'd have to vote.
We'd have to vote on the motion
that
to
motion
table.
either be rescinded or move forward.
I think the resolution is specific about what can be qualified for open space trust fund monies. It has a 5-year capital objective. Anything less than a 5-year paydown would not be considered.
But I also see, I got to open to the page, I see language here about, maintenance and weeding, and I just don't feel that the Open Space Trust Fund money should be going to common maintenance issues, I understand for a large maintenance issue, maybe doing a field or something, we could pull money aside for that, but something that I think we should be doing on an ongoing basis, I'm uncomfortable with it.
It's not an ongoing...
This is supposed to leave out anything that's an ongoing. This is something that takes place more than every 5 years?
5 years.
5 years. So if, so if you had to do the fields every 10 years, it would be included, but if you had to do something every single year, It's not included.
What if you neglected it for 5 years?
Well, that's a different issue, and that's
That's an
something-
issue.
Well, that's something the Board of Trustees has to be careful about, I mean, clearly that happens sometimes, but it's, those are budget issues and decisions, but some annual maintenance can't be. I'm not, I think there's still, I don't disagree that there are some questions about how we should be moving forward with the whole open space fund and the money and so forth. This was just a way to put it,
Well, this allows some of the projects that we have, which are capital projects, to be, we could use the Open Space Trust Fund for, such as the roof on Baird.
I mean, I'm fine with that. I just think there should be another part to this, which is how we're going to
I think that's up
make
to-
decisions about.
We do
I
that in the
actually
budget
think-
workshop.
I actually think, yeah, that's what I say, I think it's really up to the Board of Trustees.
Right.
This just lays like a guide, some guidelines, but I think it's up to the Board of Trustees. Even no matter how strict we make that policy, in the end, it's gonna be up to the Board of Trustees. And we should have an open space committee, rejuvenated, reinvigorated, whatever, to come back with advice to us, but we have to decide what projects we want. So at the last budget meeting, we said we wanted to do, I forgot the top 3 projects, but whatever they were, those 3 projects, and we go back to the open space committee and say, these are the 3 projects we want to do, and could you please, give us your input on this and money that we have. So if we have $1 million today,
Wouldn't you do that the other way, have them make recommendations to us, or?
well, I think,
Probably makes more sense.
my feeling was the Board of Trustees has to set certain priorities about this. So if we have a list of 7 priorities, we can go back to them on it, but if we just leave it open-ended, we don't have priorities, and they come back to us and we disagree with their advice because those weren't on any of our priority lists. So if our priority list is the Baird Center, Skate House, and the Ritter Corridor
Right.
project, whatever it is, and they come back and say we should spend the money on Waterlands Field, Old Stone House, and something else, we're just going to vote against it. So if they don't know our priorities, I don't see how they could give us advice or work in conjunction with us.
I think we came out with capital items that we would like to use Open Space Trust Fund money for at our last budget workshop meeting.
Yeah, we did.
And I think there were 3 items that we made recommendation to.
I just want to, for the public benefit, recite the paragraph that has the ineligible items, because I know this word like weeding and so forth keeps coming up. These are the ineligible items. Repeating maintenance projects such as cutting grass, maintaining shrubs in lawn areas, building curtilage or parkland, ordinary grass cutting, weeding, maintenance seeding, care of planted beds, playfield or playground annual maintenance, including annual maintenance to tennis courts, basketball courts, baseball infields or outfields, and soccer fields is not eligible for open space trust fund monies. Just want to make sure that people understand that it's got to be a project, and it's allowed by both state law and by our ordinance ever since passage in '99 that maintenance of lands acquired for recreation and conservation purposes is allowed. So all this policy does is set forth 7 items that is considered what we consider capital maintenance. In other words, a project that lasts more than 5 years of lands, our open space lands, and it identifies what those are. So this actually constrains the discretion that we've had since 1999. So I think this is an improvement over the situation. This is not an expansion of the purse strings in any way.
It's a little hard to hear what Mark was saying on the other side of the dais, so I apologize. But I think it comes back to some of the things we've said over the past few meetings. One of the problems is we still really have defined the use of the Open Space Committee. I'm of the mindset that anytime we want to spend any money from the Open Space Trust Fund, we should refer it to them to get their opinion, just like we do for the Transportation Committee. When we want to do any sort of transportation ideas, we refer it to them to get their opinion. We ultimately get the final say, but they get to weigh in and give some recommendations, on some projects, and I think it's sort of a good, healthy check and balance. And I just don't feel that we've come to agreement on that. I think Janina, you and I have disagreed on this, and that's okay. We respect each other, and it's a respectful disagreement. But I think we need to come to closure on what is the purpose of the committee. I know the committee members have expressed frustration because they feel like they're not utilized, and we have all this money. I mean, it's probably well over $1 million in the bank at this point. It's a lot of money that should be spent judiciously, and there's lots of places it could be spent.
So do we have a mover and a second?
Well, I think we
We have
already
a
did.
table.
And the question was, there was a question about tabling it, so Trustee Levison, did you move this?
Yes.
You could either take back your motion if you want to, or we can continue and vote on it.
No,
He's not taking it back.
No, I want to continue.
Okay,
voting.
can we have the roll, please?
This is on the motion to table?
This is on the motion to approve
Table
it.
never got to the table.
Okay.
I was too
This is
slow on
the
draw.
motion to approve resolution number 051. With that, I'll start with Trustee Gould.
No.
Trustee Levinson?
Yes.
Trustee Rosner?
Yes.
Trustee Bauer?
Yes.
Trustee Davis Ford?
Yes.
And Trustee Goldberg?
No.
Thank you. So we have 4 affirmative votes. Resolution 51 does pass. With that, we now go to Resolution 052. This is the resolution appointing our deputy village clerk to the Township of South Orange Village.
Hey, you. Trustee Davis Ford, do you want to give a brief recap of up to this point?
Yes. A search committee was put together, and I'm going to ask the clerk and the administrator to weigh in. We received a tremendous response about how many resumes for this position, would you say? 20, 30?
Oh, in excess of 30, yeah.
30 resumes. And the search committee and the review committee reviewed the resumes, and the resumes were narrowed down to 3 finalists to be interviewed. And as a result of that process, we agreed that the best person to serve our residents and to join the village staff was a candidate with a strong background. Her name is Chanel Smith. She comes to us from the role of acting clerk in the village of Orange. The position was needed to be covered quickly, and she was baptized by fire. She had to handle an election that was very, very challenging due to Sandy, and she stepped to the plate, up to the plate. And in an unusual situation, when someone has served a municipality well, they're not too anxious to see that individual go. But they knew that this was a real opportunity for Chanel Smith, and gave her their blessings to take this opportunity, and also gave us very positive recommendations. In addition to what I just shared with you, the other benefit we have from her background or experiences that she's also had some experience in the corporate world. So we have someone who has experience in the public or municipality environment, but also in the corporate world, and so she brings those sorts of skills and experiences to the village here. And
when might she be starting?
Tomorrow.
Tonight.
And I'm going to ask Howard Levison if he would like to say anything, because he was part of the committee.
Well, yeah, it was an excellent resume, and we had great interview, and I think we came to a closure on the candidate.
So I'd like to, through you, Mr. President, to introduce to...
Well, first we have to pass the resolution.
Okay.
Did you want to make the motion?
I move. Thank
Okay,
you.
moved by Trustee Davis Ford, seconded by Trustee Levison. Could we have the roll, please?
I was ready to introduce Ms. Smith. With that, we'll start with Trustee Levinson.
Yes.
Trustee Rosner.
Yes.
Trustee Bauer. Trustee Davis Ford.
Yes.
Trustee Goldberg.
Yes.
And Trustee Gould. Thank you. So Resolution 2013-052 was passed.
Yeah,
With
thank you.
that, I'd like to introduce Chanel Smith to the board as well as to the public.
Thank you all, and special thanks to Mr. Goldberg. Is it? Thank you, Trustee Goldberg, for the yes. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
She said thank you,
to,
Trustee
be
Goldberg,
here.
for the yes.
That's great.
With my
That is so
decision-
great.
With my decision to pursue the opening for the position of Deputy Village Clerk, it came with a lot of thought, and there were a lot of recommendations through taking the municipal clerk courses. One of my instructors actually told me about the opening, and she then reminded me before the course was over, did you go for the position? Did you send in your resume? And I said, oh, I don't know. And it came from a number of different places. So I said, this must be like some sort of sign or something. And with that, when South Orange, the Township of South Orange Village, when it's mentioned in a way that, this is that staple municipality. It's a place that other municipalities look up to, including mine. I've been in a number of meetings and town hall meetings where South Orange has 2 train stations. Well, South Orange has the shops around the train stations. Well, we could have the same, and so on and so forth. So it's an honor. It's a pleasure. I look forward to working with all of you. I look forward to getting to know you on an individual basis and collectively. I'm here to serve all of you and, more importantly, the citizens of South Orange, and it's exciting. I'm excited, and thank you so much for this opportunity.
And welcome.
Congratulations.
Welcome aboard.
Okay, so that was our last consent agenda items. The next is the approval of bills. Trustee Levison?
I move that the bills list, which was previously distributed to the board, with exceptions I provided the village administrator, I move it.
Okay, moved by Trustee Levison.
I second.
Seconded by Trustee Rosner. Could we have a roll, please?
Thank you. We'll start with Trustee Rosner,
Yes.
Trustee Bauer,
Yes.
Trustee Davis Ford.
Yes.
Trustee Goldberg,
Yes.
Trustee Gould.
Yes.
And Trustee Levinson.
Yes.
Thank you. So both bills lists have been passed and approved.
Bless you.
Thank you. Mr. Rother, we did create a special section in tonight's agenda. If you'd like to give a couple brief
Sure.
reports.
Yes.
Had a lot going on.
Yes, the first litigation matter I'd like to report on is the Occidental matter, that is the Passaic River matter. And if it hadn't been for a front page Star Ledger article, I would have had very little to report because there's been ongoing discussion with DEP to settle the case. All of the third-party defendants, and South Orange is one of the third-party defendants, have been engaged in confidential, up until now, discussion to settle the matter, but someone leaked the basic settlement terms to the paper, and based on the front page article, I can now confirm that yes, indeed, there is a settlement underway. The village is going to have to act on the settlement proposal by March the 23rd, so there will be further action taken. Of course, the action regarding the details of the settlement will be to a great extent dealt with in executive session. I know a lot of residents turning now to the next G or Crown Castle matter.
Excuse Steve, just add one other thing about the legislation.
Sure. Oh, sure. There is pending at the same time legislation in both the Senate and the Assembly. There are identical bills pending there, which would moot this litigation. And all residents should take note of that and write to their assembly person and their state senator to urge the passage of that legislation, because that would literally moot moot the litigation.
Or sign the petition.
Or sign a petition, exactly. And we have already adopted a resolution which has been forwarded to our legislative delegation, and other municipalities are doing the same thing, and we would urge all citizens to get behind that effort. The next matter is the Next G Crown Castle matter, which I know a number of residents are concerned about, and that involves the installation of mini antenna on the tops of utility poles. That matter is currently in discovery. Discovery continues because there's been some problem with PSE&G providing discovery, and so it's taken a little bit longer than anticipated. And South Orange stumbled on some relevant documents that were stored away in a box, and we found them, and so further discovery is taking place in that regard. And until discovery is completed, the matter is not going to move much further. It is a progress writ action. It's anticipated that it will be essentially a bench trial based on briefs.
Do you have an anticipated time frame for discovery, or just we don't know?
It's the judge has not closed it off yet. Yeah, I would imagine probably in another 60 days he's going to get antsy and want to see it concluded.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The Lauren Hill matter, which a resident earlier made reference to, is drawing to a close. The lease expired. The landlord extended it informally to the end of this month. Ms. Hill has not filed a responsive pleading to our complaint. We have filed for default and will be moving for judgment shortly, so I think this matter is rather rapidly coming to a conclusion.
Do you have any way of knowing if that lease is, I know you're saying it's expired by the end of March, do you have any way of knowing if she might have signed a new lease?
They
after the
have
expiration?
not, they have
haven't
not
told you
signed a lease.
anything?
They have not, there's not going to be a new lease signed.
There will not be a new
Yeah,
lease.
the owners have indicated they're not, and it actually
Good.
expired in December, and they only granted
Right.
an informal extension through the end of February, not March. Like, as in 3
Oh,
days.
as in
At the end of
the
February,
week.
no, it's ending in.
Oh,
yeah,
okay, it's
oh,
not-
yes, yeah, yes, yes, and we have assurance that the landlord is going to move to evict. There's no,
Because I've seen no movement towards moving trucks or anything of that nature at this time.
I wouldn't doubt that.
I'll keep you posted on March
Sure.
1st, yeah, okay.
Sure. East Orange Water Commission matter. We have been actively engaged in confidential discussions with all of the parties to the case, the City of Newark and the East Orange Water Commission and the Special Master. The primary goal of those discussions, and as I say, they're all confidential, is to address water quality first. The residents should know that there are two basic components to the litigation. One is the question of water quality, and the second is a whole host of contract disputes that we have. We've made some considerable progress. East Orange Water Commission has taken action. Anybody wants to go look at the recent meetings that they've held. They've taken actions toward intermediate and long-term solutions to the water quality issue. We are in fact meeting again on Wednesday with the special master and the various parties. I must say that the recent indictments of the two leading officers at East Orange Water Commission has slowed matters down a bit because there's some question about who's going to manage the East Orange Water Commission. We hope to hear more about that on Wednesday when we meet with them and the special master.
Thank you. And just one point to to make sure is abundantly clear. I did send some information out to folks after the indictments were announced, but just another reminder that the water quality issues are not happening right now. They happened. They were addressed not in the most long-term ways, which is now what they're looking into. But the water is safe now, completely. Yeah. Well, I've been drinking it all meeting. I do every time I sit up here, and just want to make clear that a lot of people were concerned when those indictments came out that all of this was happening right now. All these things came as no surprise to all of us because we've been engaged in this, as Mr. Rother said,
Absolutely
for a while.
True. And in fact, the village did random testing of its own, as did DEP, so that and in addition, some very substantial quantities of non-East Orange Water Commission well water has been introduced to the system, both from New Jersey American and from Newark, so that there's been a considerable amount of additional water that has been introduced into the South Orange system to further dilute any negative effect that may have come from the well field.
And just to reiterate, I know people have also had concerns about showering as opposed to drinking, which I understand is a different issue. Can you address that as well?
Yeah, that is a bit of a wives' tale, as I've learned now. The experts that we've talked to have indicated that is really not a serious issue.
At the levels now, or at any?
At the levels, you have to realize that the levels, New Jersey DEP says that 1 part is the maximum, but they round it to the nearest half. In New York State, the permitted level is 5 times that. 5 parts per billion.
And not only New York State, but the EPA federal standard.
The federal standard as well. So the New Jersey standard is considerably more conservative. And so even though there have been, on occasions, early on, some exceedances, those exceedances would have been well under the federal standard.
And would they have been cause for concern?
According to the DEP, not at all.
And what they've said is that when the levels were at a point, I mean, most of the violations were in like the 1 to 2 range. I mean, and I don't think there were any that exceeded 5 parts per million.
No.
And what they basically said was that, it's a cause for concern. We want to figure out why it's happening and figure out how to stop it. But if they felt that there was a real hazard, they would shut down the water supply, and we would have to get our water elsewhere.
The goal that we're pursuing is a recognized engineered solution, air strippers, equipment that can be put at the finishing plant so that it receives all of the water from the well field. It would be all treated so that we could be assured that every drop of water that gets put into the system is well within, not teetering on the edge, but well under the maximum that's
Is that a well
by
pun?
DEP.
No pun intended.
Yeah.
And Steve, how close are we to getting that engineered solution? Because I know you said things slowed down because they don't have an operator now.
Without, and we'll find out more on Wednesday, but without revealing all of the discussions that we've had with the parties and the special master, we're talking months, a few months, not years. That was the anticipated time frame.
There was a list of deliverables by East Orange Water to the Special Master for this Wednesday's meeting, which are the design concepts.
Yeah, some of those things we're really not at liberty right now to reveal, but the Special Master is keeping them on a very, very short leash.
If they did it by August 1st, they would be 2 years behind the August 1st deadline of the DEP order. So that's what's in my mind, August 1st.
The Special Master is keeping them on more of a tight leash than DEP, that's certain.
Good.
Thank you.
Alex, is there a way you could modify what's on, I don't know where the information is, it's on the website now, I haven't checked.
Yeah.
To include both the drinking water quality and also the steam, I guess, the showering? Because I know there's been a lot of discussion about that online, and it would be helpful, I think, to put out what we believe is
I mean, I could
correct.
add a sentence to it that says that
Yeah.
that's not a.
No, and,
If that
and,
is correct, yeah.
yeah. And I would prefer that we get that statement, and I think we probably can from
you ask
DEP.
yeah.
Because DEP has given that advice previously, and hopefully we can get them to restate that.
Mr. Rother, can you reach out to them and ask for that, and when they do give us that information, I'll post it along with that.
That'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you. That'd be really
Department of
helpful.
Health. The Department of Health is the person who attended the meeting in March, I don't know, 2 years ago.
At this time, I'd like to open the meeting up again for public comments, if there's anybody who wishes to speak.
Yes. May I go again?
You may.
Sure.
Yeah, we haven't figured out the employee question yet, though.
That's not how we talk about tonight again. Good evening. My name is Alyssa Aarons. I'm a long-time resident of South Orange. Good evening, Mayor Torpy, Trustees Raul Castro. Why did you cancel the special the BOT town meeting in February 2013? You only heard from four neighborhood associations. You excluded the rest of South Orange. You talk about transparency.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak? Okay, at that point, I'd like to close public comments. I thought I heard Amy say you didn't read my article. The reason why is because there was just a conflict in the space at SOPAC. So obviously, I would prefer SOPAC have an event instead of hosting a town hall meeting where they get no revenue or anything from. So we did defer to them on that. We have most definitely not excluded people. Not only have we met with almost 100 people through the neighborhood associations, we've gotten over 100 surveys from residents online across all geographic areas. We've also had kind of mini hearings here in the board meetings, and I know I've spoken directly with dozens and probably hundreds of residents about this. So the town hall meeting will eventually happen, but as we're trying to use a different space, sometimes conflicts come up. That's kind of about it. Is there any new business tonight?
On that point, when is that survey going to close, number one? And number two, when will you share the results with us?
The survey I wanted to try and push out once more. So I think I've thought about the best way to do that. And I think what I'm going to do is use our the emails that we've collected in our emergency notification system to ask people to fill out the survey. That's really the only email list the village has to be able to send emails out to. So push it out one more time, give it a couple days. Usually, you'll get a whole bunch of responses right away, and it'll kind of taper off after 48 or 72 hours, and then kind of close it. My report will include, they're not going to include each survey, but will include the aggregation of probably all of the data points in the survey, all the questions. That will be part of the report that hopefully I'll finish in the next week. It's almost complete. Is there any new business?
I just have one comment following up on the subject matter of the town hall meeting and neighborhood association meetings, and that is, I don't know if everybody was able to read the latest League of Municipalities magazine, but there was a very interesting and actually contrasting set of articles or op-eds, I guess I would say. One by Stephanie Brand, who is rate counsel for the Board of Public Utilities, on what kind of improvements Jersey Central Power, well, all the utilities, but especially Public Service and Jersey Central, the two big ones, are asking for now and asking to be put into the rate base. And an article by, I think it was Rush Holt, the congressman from Central New Jersey, talking about all the infrastructure improvements we need to make in order to have a reliable system. I was kind of surprised. I happened to read Rush Holt's first, and then I read Stephanie's. They're both very interesting and thoughtful, especially because I'm participating in the Jersey Central base rate case right now, representing AARP. I have to say I really commend these articles to you, and I think you should read them before we come together for our, our consolidating meeting.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn? Moved by trustee Levison.
Second.
Seconded by trustee Gould. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.